My dear Wormwood, I wonder you should ask me whether it is essential to keep the patient in ignorance of your own existence. That question, at least for the present phase of the struggle, has been answered for us by the High Command. Our policy for the moment, and we make no magicians. On the other hand, when they believe in us, we cannot make them materialists and skeptics, at least not yet. I have great hope in worship of sex, and some aspects of psychoanalysis may here prove useful. If once we can produce our magician, the man not using but vehemently worshipping what he vaguely calls forces, while denying the existence of spirits, then the end of the war will be in sight. But in the meantime, we must obey our orders. I do not think you will have much difficulty in keeping the patient in the dark. The fact that devils are predominantly always, of course, at this period. Some ages are lukewarm and complacent, and then it is our business to soothe them yet fast asleep. Other ages of which the present is one are unbalanced and prone to faction, and it is our business to inflame them. Any small coterie bound together by some interest which other men dislike or ignore tends to develop inside itself a hothouse of mutual admiration. Towards the outer world, a great deal of pride and hatred which is entertained without shame, because the cause is its sponsor, and it is thought to be impersonal. Even when the little group exists originally for the enemy's own purposes, this remains true in the Church of England. If your patient can be induced to become a conscientious objector, he will automatically find himself one of a small, vocal, organized, and unpopular society. And the effects of this on one's man is he a man of great physical courage. When nearest to honesty, no human is ever very near, feel fully convinced that he is actuated wholly by the desire to obey the enemy. Nurse him onto the stage, at which the religion becomes merely part of the cause, in which Christianity is valued chiefly because of the excellent arguments it can produce in favor of the British war effort or of pacifism. Withdraw his support from him. The spirits, they belong to the eternal world, but as animals they inhabit time. This means still distinct, and that is where the troughs come in. You must have often wondered why the enemy does get to override a human will as his presence in pain, but the fruits which, no fate, seem great, with emotional sweetness and easy conquest of a condition. But never allows this state of affairs to last long. Sooner or later, he withdraws. If not prepared to stand up on its own legs, to carry out from all alone duties which have lost all relish. It is during such trophy periods, much more than during the war periods, that it is never more in danger of a human no longer desiring, but still intending to do our enemy's will. Looks round upon the universe from which every trace of him seems to have vanished, and asks why he has been forsaken, but still obeys. And of course,
they have a hoverboard. No, Daddy, she doesn't. She doesn't. She said I can play with it.
Ugh.
El Batman no lo sabe. Don't say el Batman no lo sabe.
And Batman.
Hey Johnny, look what I found.
Hey, you like it?
Love it.
And for lunch today, we're just having leftover dinner.
purple color. So I'm going to drop a very small center. Okay, and then this one, I'm just going to do little bumps that go around the outside. That don't connect to the
Okay, so for dinner we will be having some, it's too hot. We're gonna have some beets, and in here is some beet top greens that I cooked in a little bit of chicken broth and like a small squirt of Dijon mustard, like a tiny squirt. So that's just cooking away down there. And then the main part is this roast, which I think you might have seen on a haul. And we have some fried okra. And then last but not least is our sourdough biscuits. And I make enough so that my husband can have one to take as breakfast in the morning, because I have like our meat and veggies, but I like to have something that'll kind of fill him up. So that's pretty much what's for dinner. Let me talk a little bit about this recipe that I'm using for our dinner. This one, and this was amazing. It's so delicious. This chuck roast was so flavorful, so tender, so juicy. So I tried to mimic it just as a roast. So I followed these directions. I'll leave this link down below. So it's just from all recipes. It's so simple. But what I did, instead of cooking it on the stove for an hour and a half with a 1/4 cup of water, which is like your first step, the first step I did, just put the roast in my Instapot for an hour with that 1/4 cup, and it made about that much. So here's a little beef broth, and I'm going to cook some quinoa in this now to kind of make things go a little further. And then I put it in here with the beef broth and wine vinegar and other things that it calls for, and cook it down. And then it's been cooking like that for about 2 hours, I think, give or take a little bit of time. And then I'm just kind of bringing all this up, and that will be what's for dinner tonight. Okay, so for dinner tonight I just made a green salad. This has a ton of vegetables in it. It's got your lettuce, it's got cucumber and baby corn, carrots, bell pepper. There's some bell pepper, and yeah. And then we tried that meatballs.
Anybody know where the...
This has the gluten-free noodles that we got from Aldi's that I wanted to try, and I just did a quick Swedish meatball recipe that I found online. I think it's from All Recipes, and that's what's for dinner. What mess?
Hey, you take John.
Tonight for dinner, I just made a 9x13 casserole dish of taco casserole using gluten-free noodles. This is a very simple recipe, and I will leave it linked down below. It's also really good for company. And with it, I'm just going to top it with some lettuce, tomato, avocado, and it's really good if you also have like sour cream, which unfortunately right now I didn't. So for lunch, we did Lydia Sands bean and rice casserole. I have mentioned it many times in my meal plans, and this is probably our favorite bean and rice dish, and I will leave it linked down below for you. This is what's left, and we did not have any salsa to add with it, so we just left it out, and at least half of it was eaten, so that's what's for lunch. Alright, so for dinner tonight, we're doing another Bubba's Burgers. And I just had some Swiss cheese that I just added to the top. And I'll put an avocado on it. And I made one without in case we had any children that didn't want any cheese. Then I have 2 pounds of green beans here, and that's leftovers. And then I have a little bit of sweet potatoes left, so if anybody wants some of that, they can put some of that, but that'll be for dinner. That's for Mom and Dad. One more thing, because I actually forgot. So, also with dinner tonight, we're just going to eat our leftover bean and rice casserole. And we have that much left over, so we can eat a little bit more with dinner. Sometimes what my kids like to do is they will put some of this on their beans, or they'll put this on their beans or their burgers. So that just adds a little bit more flavor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and tonight we have the laundry going in the background, creating a wonderful ambient sound for you. But for tonight's dinner, we're just going to jump right in. This is gluten-free pasta. We have some broccoli florets, and then in this wonderful doohickey thing, we have some crack chicken that needs to be shredded, and we just put it over the rice with some broccoli. And that's what's for dinner.